What is good? Let's have some fun. It's the Fundamism podcast with your host Paul J. Long and all things fun. We'll let the fun begin. Woo! What is good, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Paul J. Long coming to you as always on the Fundamism podcast, the podcast where we explore individuals who are creating fun not only in their own lives, but in the lives of others. We have a fascinating guest today. Really excited to introduce him. But before we do so, it wouldn't be a Fundamism podcast if we didn't shout out our sponsor, Charlie Hustle. Charlie Hustle's doing big things in the Kansas City community. They're always looking to find ways to give back, and they produce the finest duds in all of the city. So if you want to learn more about Charlie Hustle, go to charliehustle.com. Without further ado, our guest today, founder of the KC Crew and owner of 3 first names, Luke Andrew Wade. What's good, brother? How are you?
Yes, sir. Hey, how's it going, Paul? Appreciate you having me here. I love the use of duds. I feel like it's been forever since I've heard that word. And I'm a big fan of Charlie Hustle, so love that intro there. Thanks for having me.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's actually how you and I met, Luke. But before we get to that, we'll start every single podcast by asking our guest one question. It's the whole purpose of Fundamism and gravitating more towards the things that give you strength as opposed to the things that tear you down. So what do you do for fun?
Yeah, it's going to sound cliche because of what I do, but sports. I mean, I love playing sports. I'm the guy, I've always said it, that I'd rather go outside and throw a football than watch it on TV. So I play sand volleyball. Pickleball has become a new fun thing for me. But getting outside, riding my bike, just really being outside is one of my favorite things. So.
Sure. So when you put that football in your hand, I mean, how far can you throw it? I mean, could you throw it right over that mountain?
Probably, yeah. If Coach would have put me in, we would have definitely won state. So, I just love being outside, love being active, meeting new people. Traveling's a big hobby of mine.
Sure,
too.
Absolutely. So the KC Crew, all about sports and helping the community find its fun. I really love that. You said that earlier, and I know that's a tagline for a different business that you're doing, but I think it ties hand in hand with what you're talking about with the KC Crew. So give us a little background on the KC Crew and what it is you do.
Yeah, so KC Crew started 7 years ago. I was living downtown, working downtown. My background's actually a tech nerd, used to build websites and software for a living. So, but I played college football. I'm kind of your weird tech nerd that can actually talk to people. So I got really lucky in that aspect. But 7 years ago, I'm living downtown, working downtown, but I'm driving out to Shawnee Mission to play sand volleyball. I'm driving to Blue Springs to play softball, and there really wasn't any good options downtown 7 years ago, and the way Kansas City was growing, it just didn't make sense to me. And so I looked at a couple parks and said, hey, why don't I rent this softball field? Why don't I rent this little sand volleyball court? Build a website, tell some friends, and we had 1,000 people play that first year. And so I kept my full-time job for 3 years while this thing kind of grew organically. I kept building the website and the software to kind of automate it so I could keep my full-time job, which I actually really enjoyed. But after 3 years, we had 3,000 people playing, and someone essentially offered to buy it from me. And that kind of clicked the switch in my head that said, hey, this is actually a business. You should do something with this. And so I turned down the offer, quit my job, probably too soon, but started learning business and things like that. And so 4 years now, we had 15,000 people play Metro-wide in KC Crew this year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel like we were talking a little bit before we started. Like, you are the rare gentleman that found something that you've loved and made a career out of it, right? And I know that the played out adage of you've never worked a day in your life, you enjoy what you do, but it's true, right? But there are athletes growing up right now, quote unquote athletes, right, that have a desire, a dream of being in sports their whole careers, right? NBA, NFL, whatever it may be. You found the opportunity to be around that in which you love for a career. What did that look like? Like, how did you get there?
Yeah, so to be honest, I say I stumbled into it accidentally, but if you look at my life, it almost feels like I was coming here my whole life. So growing up, played sports, every sport I can imagine. I wrestled in high school, and then I'd leave wrestling practice and go play basketball at church. I just loved playing sports, and then I would ref games growing up as a kid. I would umpire baseball and different sports, and then intramurals in college, and I used to run teams and things like that, played college football. And so it feels like my whole life I've been leading towards something in sports, but never thought thought I would be here or never planned it out that way. So yeah, I mean, the other concept that I think has really made us successful is we look at sports as more of a recreational, social type thing. And I know this isn't a new concept, but for years people were starting softball leagues that were highly competitive. Men's leagues where every week there's a fight or people charge the state, or, charge the mound. Things like we are targeting because we believe there's more people out there who want to play for fun than want to play competitively. That's why Casey Crew has grown 60% every year, and now we have 15,000 people playing because we're targeting those people who want to go play sand volleyball, but they'd rather do it in a fun atmosphere rather than worrying about somebody spiking the ball down their throat or, karaoke. We started a karaoke league where teams come and they sing head to head against each other and the crowd votes on the winner. And
why am I just now hearing of this?
So we have all these little hidden gems that we've just tried to take things that people like, make it organized, make it a solution so that like, hey, you love karaoke. We've got this new cool thing that not only pits you against other people in a competitive manner, but you are in a social atmosphere, and how can you really fight with anybody over karaoke? And so it's a really cool, I say this a lot, our karaoke group is a hidden gem because there's this Facebook group, it's private, they all go on float trips now, they all go out together, like it's built this whole environment around karaoke through this league. And so we're trying to replicate that or make that more in our other leagues as well. So again, I feel like I've been coming here my whole life, but not on purpose. And so I got really, really lucky. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say not on purpose because, one of my favorite words on the planet is being deliberate, right? And so it seems like I met you a couple of months ago in a mastermind group, and Andrew Dallas introduced us, and it's been absolutely amazing. Andrew was a guest on the podcast as well. But just watching you and seeing your growth in just the short time that I've met you has been absolutely amazing. And quite honestly, it motivates guys like me to figure out how to grow my reach or expand my reach. So when you think about the growth of your business thus far, and I know that you got your hands on a lot of different things that I'd like to touch on before the podcast is over, but there's been a number of different things that have led to your success. But there's a ton of entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast and they want to do something that gives them strength, but they're scared to make the leap. What would you say has been, the top 3 things that have helped you succeed thus far in your career?
Yeah, I think it's not a new thing now. It's becoming more popular, but I think the number one thing is your why. Why are you doing this? And again, for me, it was just because I was actually trying to offer something for me and my friends. So it was like, this is a need for me and my friends. And so that was why I was offering it. But then as things grew and I got more in touch with the Parks and Rec struggles, I realized that, we could help a lot of people with some of the struggles they're having. So it very quickly transitioned from I need this for me and my friends to how can I help others? And so I go into Parks and Recs now or other meetings always with the idea of how can I help? Like at the end of the day, your time is limited, so you can't help everyone. And that's been a really big struggle of mine. But I go into Parks and Rec, I go into other meetings and I say, how can I help? How can we make this a win-win-win? You, me, our clientele, like how do we make it a success that everyone wins and we just keep working together? And that's been my mentality since day one. And so I think that's the number one. And my why is just because I enjoy helping people and I like to see other people succeed. And I always look at things as there's enough to go around. So I think that would probably be number 2 for me is I don't see competition. I see partners. I see other opportunities. I have a software now that we sell for Parks and Rec and think Casey Crew uses it to essentially manage their leagues. Well, Shawnee Mission Beach is I actually started playing volleyball there. I'm a huge fan of it. It's about 30 minutes away. Part of the reason I started Casey Crew is to drive people downtown, but I love the facility. It's really, really fun. Sand volleyball complex. Well, they approached me about the software and their biggest concern was, aren't we a competitor with Casey Crew? No, there's enough to go around, man. How can I help you succeed just like Casey Crew has? And so that's how I tend to look at everything. And number 3, I think, is your team. I mean, building a really good team, having support, having people behind you. Parks and Rec has been amazing to me since day one. They've been a really good place to get feedback and how do we work together? How do we utilize unused parks? And Kansas City was the first one, and now we're working with Overland Park. We just took over all their leagues this year. We're talking to Belton. We're talking to some other cities about how do we help those Parks and Rec essentially outsource their fun. And so the why, the team, and essentially, I forgot the second one already.
Dude, I was actually, I'm enamored sitting here listening to you because those 3 things just rolled off your tongue. Like you've done these interviews a million times.
I have, but I've never been asked to prioritize them. So.
No, listen, I didn't say in what order. I just said what 3 and you nailed it. I think that what that showcases to me is that you've thought long and hard about what you're passionate about and your why, and that people matter to you. And as I'm listening to you describe your 3, I can't help but think of the word fun to me. And so So Fundamism is all based on this concept of fun. And you've referenced fun probably 6 times thus far. And fun is not just a word to me, it's an acronym. So the F is foundation. It's your purpose. It's what makes you tick, your personal characteristics, how you communicate, all that stuff, your experiences in life. The moment that led to this moment right now that you and I sitting on this couch together talking about the future of Casey Crew and Luke Andrew Wade. I mean, this is foundation. This is everything that you stand for. And so in that, you outlined your purpose and what makes you tick. The U is understanding others' perspectives. And you said, you got to know what everybody else is about, and you got to gravitate towards the things that others want. You got to learn, you got to ask questions. And I called you today and your voicemail picked up and it said, if this is an emergency, leave a message and tell me what you're thankful for. If it's not an emergency, then hang up and text message me or email me, which I appreciate. So that's being respectful of not only your time, but theirs as well. And the N in fun is next steps, because without the N in fun, it's just, do you know what it is? F you. Right? And no one wants to feel that. But the N in fun is next steps. So this is, how do you gravitate towards your strengths while mitigating your areas of opportunity and always be implementing a fun success strategy? And you just outlined a couple of different things that you're doing. So you got this technology company, you're working with Hy-Vee Arena and other companies, and you told me some other things that you want to do. So tell me about the future of Luke Wade and what else you got in your quiver.
Yeah, so going back to being the tech nerd, ever since I started Casey Crew, I was always building a website and software to make my life easier, which was some of my background. And so I built a software company that manages the leagues. And, a lot of people don't realize how much goes into it, but managing 15,000 people's waivers, team signups, rosters, payments, t-shirts, scheduling, scores, umpire. I mean, I could go on and on.
Sure.
People don't realize how much goes into it. Well, I built the software to essentially manage that easier and more efficiently. And so that's called League Ally. And so again, I actually was in the military, and so I have this kind of military spin on a lot of things. And so League Ally is we only win when you win. We're your ally in this. How can our software help you do things better to save you time and really focus on your leagues? And then how does it make your players just sign up quicker and not have to worry about any of that stuff? And they just want to show up at the field and play. So how does our software limit the barrier to entry to get them to playing on the field? And so I've used a lot of my technology to build something off of Casey Crew that is almost like a business that supports each other. And then now we're starting to sell that software around the country and Kansas City, and we've had a lot of great people using it already. And then the next step is for me is again, going back to helping people. I'm trying to create a brand of how I help others create thriving communities through sports and events. So we've created pub crawls that we now take to other cities, and almost everything we do, we create from scratch. We try and make it all about the experience and something new that people really like. So the longest running one is called the End of the World Pub Crawl. We shut down a street in Martini Corner. We fill it full of zombies. You get a flag football belt. You go from bar to bar without the zombies taking your flags.
What?
So we have almost 1,000 people do this every year in Kansas City. It's one of the most unique, coolest things I've ever seen. We took it to Denver 5 years ago. We're taking it to Houston next year, probably to Detroit the year after. And so again, it's just around something unique and fun that people love. And the experience is so great that they're going to want to do it every year. So we actually have people come from Kansas City to Denver so they can do it twice a year. So it's teaching others how to do that. So I want to essentially build a brand that I can teach other Parks and Rec or other people like myself how to create those things more efficiently, and don't take year over year learning, the hard way like I did.
Sure.
Let me teach you how. Here's a budget. Here's a template. Here's how to make this and get up and running. And not only make it a business for you, but again, make it a win for your community and the people in your community. And so that's what I see myself doing in the future is, stepping a little bit further away from my companies, let them run themselves, like creating a great culture that survives without me, and then helping others, teaching them to do the same thing.
So give me the mission statement that you told me earlier.
Yeah, so it's helping others create thriving communities through sports and events.
I just love it. And so, I mean, the one thing that I will say about today's society, and it's not news to anybody, it just seems like there's a lot of ego involved in a lot of things that folks are doing, right? And we can't get past our own opinion to have a meaningful discussion with somebody else and just hear their perspective or their point of view without getting irritated. And so sitting across from somebody and seeing how successful you've been and just allowing others to experience fun and creating environments where people could find it, is just super cool to me. And to know that it doesn't stop here and that you're already thinking of the next realm, right? And the next thing to do that's going to drive that experience is absolutely amazing. And so to me, sitting across from you, it's not news to me that that you've seen some success, and you were recently recognized by Kansas City Crew as top 50 social media influencers.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, actually. It was, I think, the Kansas City blogger. I can't remember the name of the company, but yeah, I got tagged in LinkedIn earlier this week and say I was nominated as one of the top 50 influencers in Kansas City as a lifestyle guy. And that, to me, again, I'm so honored to be in that realm.
Sure.
I'm included in some of the amazing people that are doing way cool, Joel Goldberg,
Yes.
who's become a friend. Like, they're doing some really, really cool things in the community. So I'm just honored to be among that. And, to be niched as the lifestyle thing is cool to me because, people always talk about work-life balance, and it shouldn't be a balance. You should be happy no matter what, whether you're at work or when you leave work. It should be your lifestyle is really all that matters. At the end of the day, if you're not happy at work, it's going to transition over to your attitude when you leave work. And so for me, lifestyle is the only thing that really matters, is how do you want to live and work with your family, your friends, everything. And so that's essentially part of why, I was lucky enough to build KC Crew into a point where I could leave my day job. So just got married earlier this year.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. I was able to take 25 days for a honeymoon and go to Europe. Part of that is because I'm my own boss. My wife also works for KC Crew, so we didn't have to ask anybody what we wanted to do. We got to take 25 days off, and again, I built an amazing team to run the company without us. So that to me is the lifestyle I want. I want to be able to go spend 2 weeks over Thanksgiving visiting my family and not have to ask off work. And so there's things for me, I think I can teach others how to create a lifestyle they love, and they look forward to waking up and doing what they love every single day. So I'm trying to help others with that, still learning a lot myself,
Sure.
but I was very honored to be nominated in that capacity.
It's awesome, man. What's your wife's name, if you don't mind me asking?
Katie.
Does she have 3 first names as well?
No, she does not, but it is Katy. Do not call her Kathy. She gets that a lot. And
yeah.
so, don't call her that. She may get a little upset about that.
I get it. They say the most important word in any language is somebody's name. So obviously super important that you get it right. So Rob, our cameraman, you can't see him. He is a glorious specimen of a human being. Were you in the Marines? Is that what you were in? The Marines have a saying, and please forgive me if I get this wrong, everybody wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die, or something similar. Have you ever heard that? Believe me, it's from the Marines. So I might be butchering it a little bit, but what I take from that is there's a lot of folks in this world that want more. They want to live with more joy, fun, and fulfillment. They want to have a job that doesn't stress them out. They want to surround themselves with individuals that lift them up. But we're not always willing to put in the work. And Mark Cuban recently came out and said, one of the things that's really missing and one of the success factors that will drive additional success in your business is just being polite and caring about other people. And so everybody's looking for that magic bullet. Like, how do I find success in business and in life? As I'm sitting across from you and other folks that we associate with, Matt Basinger, Andrew Dowis, Chase McAnulty, all these folks, typically the one common thread is that you care about people and you genuinely desire to help leave people in a better space after you meet them. Would you say that that's been a huge factor in the success of you to date?
Definitely. I think, one of my biggest challenges is emotionally is trying to make everyone happy. When you have 15,000 people, you're not, no matter what, you can't do it. And I've tried. And so again, in the beginning, it was built for me and my friends, constantly asked them. I used to leave my day job at 5. I would set the fields up every night. I would run the leagues every night for a year and a half. So I was there getting feedback from everyone. What do you like? What don't you like? How can I make this better for you? And so 100%, I built KC Crew for everyone in Kansas City. And it started with me and my friends, but now it's for everyone. And so we get feedback every second we can. And so you have to. If you're going to build a company for yourself and not get feedback from other people, you're going to end up being your only client.
Sure.
So I think you have to care about people, and that goes back to your why. If you're building a company just to make money, you probably aren't going to succeed unless you're extremely lucky. But
that's right.
When you build it on something you truly enjoy and something you want to do forever, it matters, it shows, and people can see right through it if you're not really genuine. So I think 100%, getting feedback from people, caring about their opinions, again, to some extent. Sometimes I take an email and say, oh my God, they complained about this, let's change everything,
yes.
right? And luckily I have my team to say, oh, whoa, like that's probably crazy.
Sure.
We shouldn't change all that. So, but that's been one of my biggest challenges is just, I really do want to make everyone happy, and you have to listen to them and actually care to do that. So,
it's funny about that example that you just gave. So as a motivational speaker, my clients will often do surveys to audience and participant, experience. And so they'll send them my way, right? And never fails, like ton of great feedback, right? It was the best speaker ever. I thought, I cried, I laughed, blah, blah, blah. Those aren't the ones that I read.
Nope.
Those aren't the ones that stick out to me. It's like, I had a hard time understanding what he was talking about. I'm like, how could you not understand what I was talking about? I don't get it.
I started laughing as soon as you said that because I did a presentation at the Social Media Club luncheon about Facebook advertising. And I teach a 3.5-hour workshop for the library that all on Facebook ads. And they asked me to condense that into an hour. Okay. And so I was just going. And they sent me the feedback. And like you said, it was literally 99% amazing. This guy's one review that was like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. I want to talk to the person actually running it. Like, it blew me away. And I couldn't get it out of my head. I'm like, were you in the same room as everyone else? Like, so again, it bothered me so much. But again, it's just because I care. If I didn't care, whatever, we'll go on. But like, I want to know. I'd love to sit down with that guy and be like, how did I mess up? Like, how can I help you understand this better? Because there's other people out there like that. And if I can understand him, I can help relate to those other people. So
when I think to take that one step further, there's a part of you, and I haven't had much exposure to you, but I think that you and I have many similarities that we really desire to get better, right? And so oftentimes when you're showered with praise, as you often are, you're always looking for that one individual to say, here's the thing that I took away that I feel like if you focused on it, you would be even more impactful.
Yep.
And it's a rarity that people will tell you that stuff, right? And so when you do hear it, we gravitate to it, and it makes us pay attention.
Yep.
And so learning to grow and figure out what that growth looks like is very important. You had mentioned earlier that when you gravitate towards the things that make you happy, right? It's not a job. It's easy, right?
Yep.
Well, a lot of folks, there's a difference between having passion with something and being good at something, right? And so it's easy for us to define our career by doing things that we feel like we're good at. And then you go home at night and you're laying in bed and you feel as though life doesn't have meaning or you're missing out on something. And I think that it relates back to what you said is you may be good at it, but you don't enjoy it. So earlier you said that you made a conscious decision to leave the business or corporate world, right? And that was difficult for you. And you said you probably left a little sooner than you should. I had that same experience. I remember crying on my wife's shoulders because I was tasked with the performance management strategy of 2,500 people. And it never failed. Every single night I'd go home and I would worry about how do I make these 2,500 people enjoy work? That's a lot of pressure for any one person to have. And so I remember crying on her shoulder and she said, Paul, there's no amount of compensation that's worth sacrificing your happiness. The world needs Fundamism, but more importantly, you need Fundamism. And that's what it took for me to leave. There's several individuals that are listening to this podcast right now and are in what they feel is a dead-end job, but they remain in that dead-end job because of comfort, fear, the golden handcuffs.
Yep.
What made you make the decision, and what advice would you give to those individuals that are stuck in the proverbial rut?
Yeah, so I think, again, that offer of, hey, it almost validity. That somebody said, here's a bunch of money, we want to buy your company you started 3 years ago. And that was like, holy cow, this is real. Like, if they want to pay me for this is probably worth something. And I felt like I hadn't even tried yet.
Sure.
And so at that time, I was like, look, I think it's worth more than this over the long haul, and I want to work for myself, and that sounds great. And so the mistake I made was I almost got put off by the amount of money they offered me. I thought it was worth more than that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to show you. I'm going to make it great. So I just quit, left the job and then realized, well, it's winter. We don't have income until April. So I probably should have waited and stuck this job out. So thought about it more intellectually on like, when will I actually have more income from this job? More as a business sense,
Sure.
which is not anything I knew. So that's actually been my biggest downfall is I didn't go to school for business. I went to school for computer programming and graphic design. So learning how to manage finances and business and LLCs and employees and all that has been a really hard learning curve for me. And so if I would have had all that knowledge, I would have waited until we had all of our income come in, left my job and moved forward. But I think setting goals. So if you're in a dead-end job and you have an idea and there's something you want to try, there's a million ways to bootstrap it. I just was on a panel of talking about how to bootstrap a company to $1 million. So Casey Crew actually hit $1 million company this year.
Congratulations,
in 7 years.
man.
Thank you very much. Very, very exciting. Again, I look at my accounting, not knowing business, saying, where's that money then?
Exactly.
So,
hey, my wife says the same
where's
thing to
our
me.
$1 million?
Yeah,
Like, oh, you spent it.
Yeah.
So that's, again, like that's really, really cool. So there's a million things you can do without having to spend a bunch of money to get your idea started. And all you have to do is set those goals. So if you hate waking up every day and going to your job, set a goal every day about something you like for your business. What can I do tomorrow? Maybe it's just starting an LLC. Maybe it's just buying your domain name. Maybe it's starting to talk to, designers to develop a logo. But every day do something that motivates you even more about your business. And before you know it, you're going to be so far along that you're like, hey, maybe I can actually do this. And I think setting long-term goals is good too. So by this month, I'm going to try and, get to where I can work part-time. One of my favorite books is The 4-Hour Work Week. Tim Ferriss essentially teaches you how to get from working a full-time job to letting you work from home so you can start doing more things on the side and you become more, your performance increases. And
Sure.
so the happier you are, the more work you're going to get done, the better you're going to get done, the more quality you're going to do. And so, I think setting goals is the number one thing. I mean, if you keep having excuses, you're never going to do it. You've just got to get over that fear and those excuses and really set goals. Again, even if it's small, every day, just do something small. And before you know it, you're going to have something built up.
I love it. I used to have a tremendous fear of losing my job. And so when I worked for the man, right, I was always a top performer. I was always a 4 or a 5 on a scale of 1 to 5, right? And I was always the guy in every single meeting where first hand raised, hey, who can do this? Oh, Paul can. I can. Give it to me, right? And so despite the fact that every performance review I ever had was always, top box, I'd still go in every single day, Luke, worrying about, am I going to be here tomorrow? Because I wasn't in control, right? So we hired a consultant firm to come in and teach us. It was a descendant of Dale Carnegie. And so they taught us some leadership stuff. And I had the opportunity to roll this leadership program out at the ripe young age of like 24. I've never been in leadership, and I'm teaching the whole organization about leadership. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And a couple of years passed, we bring the consultant firm back only to give me the content so I could roll it out this time. And so it was really exciting, validating that, hey, maybe they see something in me. Well, this consultant firm says, what are you doing? Like this is your niche. You should leave corporate America and you should start consulting. So I go home and I rack my brain over this. Like I'm worried about it. And what's going through my head is, for the last multiple years, I go into work every single day worrying about if I were to lose my job, where the next paycheck's going to come from. Well, as a consultant, you don't know where the next paycheck's going to come from. You're creating your outcomes, right? You're grinding and you're doing the damn thing. So I thought, I'm going to drive myself crazy if I make this leap. Well, I did. I made the leap. And I'll be damned if I never worried about where that next paycheck was coming from again, because I felt like I was in control at this point in time. If indeed I failed, there was no person to blame but me.
Yep.
And so it made me work hard. And so I love your idea of setting goals, because a lot of folks, we live day to day and we don't necessarily, we have dreams, right? But we don't necessarily take pen to paper and write them down and revisit them on a regular basis. But the second aspect of that is, I think, of not being fearful of taking the leap. And let me take a step back. Fear is okay, but taking the dive, right? If you're faced with potentially drowning, you got to tread the water.
Yep.
And it forces you outside of your comfort zone to try some new things, right? And so just hearing what you had to say, I hope that these individuals listening that want to take the leap, that are unhappy in their current situation, realize that there's a lot of other folks that have been in that exact same position. if you take pen to paper, you make some goals, and you take that leap, and you set up a success strategy, you put your heart and soul into it, and you're kind to others, then more often than not, you're going to see some success. So, well, we're going to do some rapid fire questions as I'm respectful of your time, and I get you on to your next meeting. You brought up karaoke earlier, and this is the first I've heard of it, so I definitively want. Where is this at? Where do you do?
So we do it at Off Key, the karaoke bar in Westport.
Oh my gosh!
It's on Wednesday nights,
every Wednesday.
Yeah, every Wednesday. Seasons are different. So the leagues, we have winter, spring, summer, fall. So we have different, pretty much the same teams sign up every season, but every now and then we'll have new teams sign in. So yeah, it's every Wednesday. Teams are anywhere from 4 to 8 people on each team, and they do singles. And every week is themed. So they actually pick their own theme. So it could be country week, rap week, Michael Jackson week, and so all the songs are themed around that theme. And people dress up in costumes, and like one of my favorite things I ever saw was it was Country Week, and the team sang Country Fried, and they brought chicken and handed it out to the crowd while they were singing. And so there's an MC who judges it and helps lead the whole thing. And so it's been really cool. You know, we approached Off Key several years ago with the idea, and they loved it, and it's just been growing every season. It's just been really cool.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
So mine is Total Eclipse of the Heart, the Dan Band version. Yeah. So little R-rated, but I can really belt out and scream just like he does in there. So one of my favorite ones. So that's my go-to. But
I love it.
Yeah, that or some Eminem or even like Warren G, Regulator, or something like that. Yeah.
So you got some talent if you could throw out some Eminem.
Yeah, I actually used to do a lot of music in my younger days. I used to rap, and I've had like songs and stuff come out in college and stuff. Yeah, Matt Basinger actually tried to pull all this out of me when he launched his choir bar idea, and it's a little under wraps. There's some stuff out there if you look deep enough, but I used to be pretty popular in college.
Just ask him. That's a challenge to me. I'm going to find this stuff. I love that. Anybody that's willing to put themselves out there. Oftentimes somebody asked me recently, "Are you an emotional gentleman?" And there's one thing that can make me tear up and cry, and it's tears of joy. Whenever I see somebody being creative, like if I see a comedian putting their heart and soul into their jokes, or somebody putting themselves out there and singing a song, or connecting with a song, or, building something like you've become, like I have such admiration of that. That makes me tear up from time to time.
Yeah, I was just having this. I mean, kind of like what you've done, or like Ashton Martin, DJ Ashton Martin, like or Molly Balloons. Like for me, I get so excited and motivated. Like you said, when I see somebody who's taken something that you would have never thought would be a business and actually made it very successful. Like who would have thought you could be a DJ and then get enough success that you can have other DJs underneath you, and you're just, you build a brand around yourself from a DJ. I would have never thought that. Same thing with balloons. Like that's what really excites me, is the creativity of like, hey, this is something I'm good at that isn't popular, but I'm going to figure out how to make it popular and how to make a business out of it. So for me, it's that gets me really excited, but tearing up, I've always had just emotional connection with music. Music, man, it just gets into the heart and soul of me. I listen to everything from Norah Jones to AC/DC. Like I just love music, and I really believe it affects people's moods. So I listen to different types of music depending on what I'm trying to get done throughout the day. So I'm a big fan of just creating new things out of something that isn't mainstream. Sure. That and music I'm always a fan of.
Oh, big time. I did Truman Elementary recently. It was earlier this year. I got the opportunity to speak to 1,600 high school students. Not my target audience, but had fun nevertheless. So I asked them if they had ever heard of a gentleman by the name of Christopher Wallace. For those of you that don't know who Christopher Wallace is, he is the great rapper Notorious B.I.G. And so, we often make excuses for where we are in life. And so my go-to song is Juicy by Notorious B.I.G. And so the Super Nintendo Sega Genesis bit where he's talking about the come up and like how he didn't have much growing up. Yep. And so I love tying that in sometimes to a keynote. But to your point, like I love rap music. I have such strong affection for 80s. So I was listening to Van Halen this morning, not Van Hagar. But
did you see the Queen movie yet?
No, I heard it's phenomenal.
Totally worth it. I literally probably saw it a month ago, and I feel like I listened 3 or 4 times a week to just Queen.
Really?
Yeah, it was so good.
That dude is super talented, Freddie Mercury. So a couple things to wrap up. So what's one thing you've always wanted to do, but you just haven't for one reason or the other?
Oh man,
This is the first time you haven't had an answer right off the dome.
It's crazy. My wife and family says the same thing. Is like when Luke wants something, he does it.
That's amazing.
So it's like this year alone, I went skydiving for the first time. I went in Denver for my bachelor party. I went hang gliding in Switzerland with my wife on our honeymoon. I've ran with the Bulls twice. I was in the military, so I was in Iraq, Kuwait. So I don't know. I mean, one thing I've wanted to do. There's a million things I want to do, but I set goals. I actually see them in my future. So
sure.
I don't know. That's actually, you got me stumped, man.
I love it. All right. You're going to have to come back to me by tomorrow. Mastermind group. Celebrity crush growing up.
Oh man, Topanga.
Oh, Topanga. Boy Meets World. Nicely done.
Yeah, for sure.
How about favorite Disney princess?
Oh man, Jasmine.
It's just quality.
Yep.
It's always Jasmine and Ariel for me.
Yeah.
Something that you're super proud of that not many people know about you.
Oh man, I think just we have 6 full-time employees and 70 part-time employees. Like creating something that people can come to work and enjoy, and creating something from nothing, I think is what I'm the most proud about. That's succeeded as long as it have. I remember day one, people were saying most small businesses fail in 3 to 5 years. We're in year 7, and like it's growing even faster. So I think I'm extremely proud of just that, like allowing other people to enjoy what I've created for themselves.
And you should be. Luke Wade, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, man. I'm super happy to see all the success that you're having, and mainly it's just because you're a good dude and you are showering others with fun, and that in today's society is needed now more than ever. So I appreciate you. If anybody wants to learn more about KC Crew or you, what should they do? Where should they go? Yeah,
so kccrew.com is going to be the number one place for KC Crew sports and events, things like that. I'm starting to write blogs on there and things like that about our success and the things that are going on with us. And then lukeawade.com. I haven't updated in a while, but it's got a lot of information about me. I have some blogs and some links to different things there. So, yeah. Well, I look forward to tracking your success, as I'm sure our listeners do as well. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on today. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the book, too. I can't wait to read that. Absolutely, man. Well, hey, this is the Fundamism Podcast. That was Luke Andrew Wade of KC Crew. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, and we encourage you to go find your fun today.